All right, so we're going to count down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone, to another great episode of Breaking Bread with Corey. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. We actually have two episodes coming back to back with some really awesome ambassadors. I am just setting things up, so bear with me. I hope everybody is doing well. Loads of great guests that we have coming for you. Let's see. Let's see if we can get that going. Let's see. Just gonna throw all these people in there. See if we can get any of those. All right. Hey everybody, thank you all for joining. Thank you. Thank you for coming on and saying hello. Hello everyone. As I was saying, welcome to another great episode of Breaking Bread with Corey. I have two amazing ambassadors lined up for you tonight, starting within the next couple of minutes. We have an amazing ambassador doing something that is very innovative, very smart, and very supportive to the Black-owned ambassadors in the community. We're going to be speaking with Sean McClain from A Taste of the Culture. So excited to be sharing that. And then just at an hour from now, we're going to be speaking with the woman of the hour, Miss Gloria Paisan of Mario Paisan Cellars, which I'm going to be drinking tonight. Their Sauvignon Blanc. I'm actually going to be pairing it with, throughout the simulcast, a little kettle chips. That's right, from Trader Joe's. Get down. But two great ambassadors doing something really, really amazing for the industry. And I can't wait to begin this program. But before we begin, I would just like to say thank you for all your support. I really appreciate it. It's been a great ride, and so excited to share more with you in the coming weeks with some amazing ambassadors. Like I said, we have some really amazing ambassadors coming to you to share the screen with me in the next few weeks. So I'm really excited. I want to get this show started, so I'm going to go ahead and bring my special guest of the night. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate it. Let me see what I can get. Let me see if I can get my special guest. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Don't forget, tonight, if you have questions, please go ahead and put it right there in that little circle with a question mark. And hello, Mr. Sean. How you doing?
Good evening. How are you?
Good. Just straightening out my camera. How's the day been?
Day's been pretty good. It's been a busy Monday. It's been pretty gray,
Yeah.
unfortunately, on the East Coast. But, that's April for you.
And where are you coming from exactly?
I'm in Philadelphia.
Very cool. I know you said that you're in your bio that you're a Philadelphia native. That's very cool. You're an Eagles fan?
I am. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's bad.
How do you think they're going to do this coming year?
It's a rebuilding year for sure. And it sucks. I mean, we can't complain. We won our first Super Bowl in 2018. So, we can't really be too sour about it. But,
Mm-hmm.
it's quick. It doesn't last long. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Our window closed pretty fast.
Yeah. I'm a big sports fan. My grandfather raised us with sports and really good, really good beer. He always brought his cooler with beer. But every Sunday we'd come over our house and he'd say, put the ball game on, whether it was football, baseball, basketball, you name it. But when I always talk to somebody from the East Coast, especially Philadelphia, they are hardcore fans. They take it. It's in their blood. And one of my favorite movies, believe it or not, like I said, I'm a big sports fan. I love sport movies. Everything from Remember the Titans to Rudy to. But one of my greatest ones that I always say is Invincible, about
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
guy from the walk on
Hmm.
from Philadelphia. I always
Mark
forget his
Wahlberg,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, that was such a great story because it just showed you that anybody could be, somebody, and it's such an inspiring story. And what you do is very inspiring.
Thank you.
From the moment that I saw your bio, and from the time we actually started talking and getting everything ready for this show, what you do is very innovative. It's very supportive of the community, and it's something that we all need. And I love for you to introduce yourself and tell what you really do.
Sure, sure. Well, I'm Sean McCloud. I'm a Philadelphia native, as you mentioned. I've spent most of my life here, but I think part of what I bring to a taste of the culture, which I'll get to, is my travels. So when I first graduated from college, I traveled full time across the country for work for about 5 years. And I've traveled around the world, for leisure for the most part. And it's a big part of who I am. And I think it's what brought me to spirits initially. There's definitely like an emotional connection there. My grandfather, who passed last year, kind of introduced me to spirits, and not even just, hey, here's a drink, but more so letting me know, what spirits meant, and kind of how spirits are a glimpse of the region where they're from, right? So, Scotch from Scotland, Irish whiskey from Ireland, tequila from
Right.
Mexico, stuff like that, where like learning about spirits and how it can tell you about a certain part of the world and even a part of the country, depending on what they are. So it's just something that I've always been into. I started working in the industry in 2013, so I come at it from the marketing side. And my first role was on behalf of Douce Cognac when they first started expanding beyond just New York and Miami and LA. So I was responsible for uh, bartender outreach and consumer education, and also some events and sponsorships in the Philadelphia market, as well as New Jersey and a couple others like New England. So just kind of expanding it beyond the really big markets, and getting it out there. And cognac's one of those interesting spirits where, it's sold in kind of that top fine dining restaurant, and also in neighborhood bars that only take cash, right? So you really learn a
Right.
lot. You're able to kind of really. So I thought it was an amazing first experience for me in the industry because I really got a chance to do everything. Some nights I had to put on a damn near a tux, and then other nights I could, be incognito. So it was a very,
Right.
very insightful and a great experience for me. Um, and I've been working in the industry ever since in different ways, whether it was a marketing kind of ambassador role like that. I've also worked at a distributor. I've worked in events and sponsorships as well. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything. And I'm currently wrapping up my MBA now. I had
Very good.
thank you. I had grand plans to become a brand manager, actually, in spirits.
Very cool.
And I've kind of changed my idea of what my career will be a little bit. This business came out of nowhere, and I'll get to that part. So, I do see a future as a brand manager in marketing in some industry, maybe not in spirits, or maybe it will be with one of the brands I work with. But I feel like this business has such a great opportunity that, I'm kind of all in on this right now. So that's kind of where things are these days.
Yeah, no, the industry, like I said, if you love drinking right now, whether it's beer, wine, and spirits, now's the time to drink it because there's so much potential. There's so much creativity and all these different fingerprints that are going on. You
Exactly.
have all these different innovative ways to make, everything from bourbon to scotch, to tequila to vodka. You're going all the way through the line, even in the wine area to your breweries or microbrews. You have people being very innovative. You even have things that are coming out like lavender beers and so forth. You have all these things that are coming out. So I always say, man, this is the time to actually drink it all. Now, as far as what you see in the industry, what is really kind of really enticed you to keep that foot on the pedal? What is there a certain momentum in certain parts of the spirit industry that is really making a big push right now?
Well, I think the industry is changing, and I think that's what makes a business like this possible. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a one-man show. I don't have the crazy resources. And that's one of the reasons why, I'm pushing the brands I'm pushing for that reason, right? Is there's a commonality there. But I think, COVID, obviously, as horrible as it has been, it's really made people, people are buying things online. And direct to consumer in the
Hmm.
spirits and wine and beer space is stronger than it's ever been. And it's something that I've
Right.
always felt was needed. And, living in Pennsylvania, I have a different, a very different lens of it because we don't have it except for wine, right? So it's that much
Right.
harder. But in places where it's available, it's amazing, and it's one of those things that it's hard because people when you try, it's like buying spirits is like trying on clothes, right? Like you want to try it,
Yeah.
you don't want to
Yeah.
just buy something without knowing. But and for the past almost a year, it's something that people do, and people are kind of discovering things, and that's the curiosity
Right.
is probably the main thing that's kind of has the momentum now, where people are willing to go out on a limb and try something different, try something new,
Yeah.
and they're willing to somebody like me who has a little bit of I don't want to call it expertise, but I know some things, and I'm able to kind of educate people on things, and that's kind of where that conversation takes place. So it's like, all right, I trust you and your opinion, I'll try it out, and that's something that that would happen at a bar, or it might happen at a store, but it wouldn't happen online, and it's starting to happen now.
Right. No, it's great to see. It's great to see the subscription services providing a lot of versatility, a lot of options. Like you were saying, I see a lot of it out there, and it's awesome because right now this is the for the majority of us this is the only way that you can get in contact with these things.
Right.
Same thing like how you said that you have certain issues in Philadelphia. It's the same way it's over here in Oregon. You're restricted, so if you want to get spirits, you have to go into the liquor store. You can't just go into a normal grocery store and see it all in one place. You
Exactly.
have to kind of go search for it. But this gives you a nice option because you provide a really good directive for the consumer, and you give really good description, and it's attractive. People want to go and go, hey, I'll and then what you focus on. Can you tell us who you focus on? Because this is really special. This is important, and I think, like you said, in the midst of COVID, in the pandemic, we all started to do some brainstorming and how we could create positivity and make things happen. Tell us what you really focus on, and I really love this.
Sure, sure. So my focus with the Taste of the Culture is exclusively to feature Black-owned wine and spirits. And the idea behind that is literally just kind of, I don't want to call it an epiphany, but you know, almost a year ago now, the George Floyd situation happened, and other instances of social injustice. And they've been going on for years, right? But in 2020 was the
Right.
time where we really, as a country, we took a step back and realized that, there's things that could be changed. And as horrible as all those things were, the silver lining of that was the support for Black-owned businesses. Large corporations and everyday people were really, putting their money where their mouth was and supporting Black-owned businesses. Now, having worked in the spirits industry for quite some time, I wasn't as aware of a lot of Black-owned spirits as I thought I was. I knew about a handful, but amongst all
Right.
that promotion, I started seeing, lists and brands I've never heard of, like some of these beside me. I never heard of these brands in my life. And as I
Hmm.
started diving deeper and doing my own research, I kind of felt like, wow, I can do more. There was, when it was all said and done, and now I have a list of over 100 brands of wine and spirits, just wine and spirits. So if you get into beer, it's, a whole other thing.
Right.
And it's like, all right, what could I do? I have all this experience. I know some things. I was just in my job at the time, I was really starting to realize the power of things like Flaviar or Caskers or Drizzly, where we were actually incorporating them into our events and things like that. And I'm like, well, if this is something that's going to be a part of people's buying habits, there's a way to do this and focus on Black-owned brands because at the time, and I give a lot of these companies credit, they are focusing more on Black-owned brands. Some of them are included, but not all of them, right? So you
Right.
learn in business school, when you create a business, you feel a need, and that was the need I saw where there's hundreds of these brands. They don't have the access to distribution, the marketing dollars that some of the other gigantic brands do. But I could give them a platform where they could reach people all over the country where legal, right? And that's kind of the idea behind it. Um, I'd say so the culture, the name just kind of made sense. I think over time it's just something that I couldn't have called it anything else. So I'm happy I was able to. I'm a little bit creative, I'll say. I'll pat myself on the back with that one. But yeah, I mean,
Hey, Sean,
yeah,
real quick, I didn't mean to disrupt you, but I lost audio. Could you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let's see. I'm trying to see, was if it was me on my end, is because I can't hear you. You went out like just
Oh, okay.
for the last like 10, 15 seconds, and I'm trying to get. I apologize, everybody. I'm trying to get the audio situation correct. That's what usually happens with good old
Gotta love
technology.
Mondays, right?
Yeah. Um, let's see. Do you want? Let's see. If Could you do me a favor? Could
Sure.
you maybe let's try this because if it's coming from I can't hear you, you can hear me. You try maybe um,
I'll take these out.
kicking yourself out, and then I'll try. Then I'll bring you back on to see if that might be the case.
Sure.
We have paused this program for technical difficulties. We'll be rebroadcasting the broadcast in just a little over 30 seconds. Let me see if I can get this going. All right, let's see if this works. Thanks for bearing with us, ladies and
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. Let's see if we get back. Okay, let's see.
How's that?
There you go.
There
We're
we go.
back. We're back and roll. I was like, oh man. I was like, did something happen? Did I do something with my own earphones or something? But
Technology.
if you can just, I apologize, but could you just kind of retract what you just said? I know you were bringing a lot of great information. Could you just repeat it on my end?
Sure, sure,
So
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, long story short, once everything happened last year with a lot of the social injustice, and just the then support of Black-owned businesses, I started discovering a lot more Black-owned wine and spirits. And I felt that I could use my skills and expertise to help some of those brands. Much like, specialty, like craft specialty beer clubs or whiskey clubs, there is an opportunity to focus on Black-owned wine and spirits because it's a
right,
it's a very similar situation, right? Where a lot of these brands are like regional superstars. Like you have brands that are from DC and are popular in that area, or like Ellis Cream is actually from Canada, but they have a big following now in New York and Florida and places like that, and they're growing nationwide. So it's just I saw it as an opportunity to kind of give people around the country the access and just to know about them. Because what I started doing
right,
is when I first learned about some of the brands, I purchased what I could get. I was living in New Jersey at the time, so it's a little bit easier. And I started doing some reviews about the brands. I tried them out, put them in some cocktails, did some reviews, and a lot of people were curious. They were like, "Hey, how do I buy this? Or where do I get it? Tell me more about it." And I realized that it was something that people wanted. They just never could comprehend how it could happen, right? Because especially, New Jersey is a little bit different, but much like Oregon, Pennsylvania is a control state. You have to go to the state liquor store, and whatever they have
right,
is what you can get, right? So just that, not realizing that there's so much more out there, and direct to consumer, all those things are kind of coming together. So it was a good opportunity to kind of put something like this out and educate people. So a Taste of the Culture is a subscription box, but it's also building the community up, right? Where on my
right.
website there's a list of all the brands, there's videos of reviews I've done in the past, and I try to update those as much as I can, where you can learn more about these brands beyond what you'll see on their website, and kind of get an opinion from someone that's objective. So yeah, I mean that's literally what it is, and it's been amazing. I had the idea for the company in probably early June, and I launched it in December. And obviously, with spirits and wine, there's a lot of legal things and funding, stuff
Right.
you have to figure out. So I took some time and dug in and figured all that stuff out. And being furloughed from your job will give you some time to do things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's been amazing, and I think the what's great about it is, I've been in touch with, tens and tens of, probably not quite all 100, but I've probably been in touch with, maybe 50% of the brands that I'm aware of, right? So I think what's great about that is everyone's been happy about it. They've been embracing the idea. Everybody wants to figure out how to
Yeah.
make things work, but also there's so much more to do, right? And I've been noticing, every couple of weeks or so, I'm discovering a new black-owned brand that I hadn't heard about. So I think that's the kind of the cool part, where the success of brands like Uncle Nearest, or even, black led brands, or Ciroc, or brands like that, that aren't owned solely, that aren't owned by black people, but the people that embrace them. People are kind of realizing now, hey, we can have ownership in this industry, and that's something that I've
Right.
always wanted to see and be a part of. So I'm happy to kind of be a part of furthering that conversation.
Yeah, no, that is important. And I know you were talking about a couple of the bottles that you have behind you. Is there any brands that you want to just like talk about that are really? I mean, I would say all the brands that you carry are very underrated and not very noticed. Or I hope I said that
No,
correctly.
I know what
But
you mean. Yeah.
right. But as far as it's not getting its due, basically, and so are there any of those that you have behind you want to talk about? I mean, I'd love to hear some of those because, again, me being on this side of the world, it's like you said, it's so restrictive that you have to constantly dig. It's like digging, being Indiana Jones and find the lost city.
Right.
It is just like that, and it shouldn't be like that where you're having to dig so far deep. You're like in another country already by the time you get up. So can you talk about some of these brands that are really that you think, man, these are something that we should be talking about a lot?
Sure, and I think what you said is great, and it's your statement about how hard it is literally why I created the business, right? Because I wanted to take all the headache out of it, where literally the idea of the general subscription is, it's different every month. I'm going to pick everything that's there, so all the decisions are made for you. So you'll get something great. It's a black-owned spirit or wine. It's a black-owned mixer. It's a bar accessory, right? So all those steps are taken out of it, and you're literally getting something cool. As far as, there's a ton of brands I would love to talk about. I think what I've noticed, is that when you have hurdles, when it comes to being in a business, right, especially in the spirits world, you have to be creative, and that's the thing that's been
Hmm.
amazing about a lot of these black-owned spirits, is that they're doing things that no one else has done. Forgive me, I'm
Right.
going to grab something that I should show you.
No, go ahead, please, please.
Uh, So in addition to the two I have here is Blue Royal. So Blue Royal is probably one of the most unique spirits I've ever seen. It's a rum and tequila spirit, pretty much, right? And when you hear that, you're like, what? Because that's what I said first. But when I tried it, I was like, man, you literally get rum and agave, like, and it's balanced. It doesn't taste like harsh. It doesn't taste overly sweet. It literally is a nice
Right.
blend of both. And it's just amazing because obviously, in spirits, right? Like bottle matters for a lot of people. Like some people will buy this just because of how it looks, right? But the
Yeah.
fact that it tastes that way is amazing. That's definitely a spirit that I'm always going to champion. The two behind me as well. So Black Leaf Vodka, is a really really great vodka based out of DC. It's actually made in France though, and it's made kind of in a similar process as cognac is, right? With that same kind of
Right.
mentality of small batch distillation, and it's made from winter wheat, so it's very creamy, and it's one of those, like, vodka. It's known so much as like a odorless, tasteless spirit, which, I mean, in a general sense, yes, but something like this, you can drink that straight, and it's very velvety. It's smooth. It's creamy. I love Black Leaf, and LS Cream, one of the first brands I actually was in contact with that I discovered. And what's amazing about them is that, the cream liqueur category is pretty much dominated by a few players, right? Like, you got Bailey's, you got Rum Chata, which was just in the news over the weekend. Um, but what they've done is, the founders of that brand are Haitian, right? So there's a Haitian drink that's really popular around the holidays. It's called cremas, and it's similar to, I guess, what's more widely known in the Spanish culture, Puerto Rican culture, is coquito. So very similar idea where it's like a bunch of cream and spices and things like that. It's made during the
Right.
holidays. So cremas is a similar idea, and they found a way to bottle that. And it's LS cream liqueur. It tastes amazing. And what's kind of cool about it is it's very versatile, right? So you can use this in all the other cream liqueur drinks that whether it's like with coffee or whiskey or things like
Right.
that, rum. But you can also
Yeah.
do really nice like elevated cocktails with this, like rum-based cocktails, like pina coladas, things like that. And that's why I love this. It's so versatile. It's light. It's very flavorful, but it doesn't taste overly sweet. It's really balanced. So yeah, I mean that's just a tip of the iceberg, I would say. Um, but again, I could talk about it for days, but I think that's kind of the thing where it would be great, right? If this something like this didn't have to exist, where we had to highlight that they were black owned. But that's the world we live in, and all of these brands are doing things that are very unique that other companies aren't doing, and that's why they stand out. In addition to them being black owned.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is, again, you're starting to find these gems come out, and you're starting to find how innovative they are, creative they are, and what they're bringing to the fold. I always say everybody is bringing everything to the table right now. Everybody can benefit.
Right.
You can't lose.
Right.
So why not do it? You know what I mean? You cannot lose if you bring everybody into the table, because we're all going to take from everything and learn, open our minds, and really go, man, this is what I could do. This is what they're doing over there. This is what they're doing over there. They're bringing this type of flavor, this type of style, and this is the time to do it. And you hit on something, just rewinding back of what you were saying, about just the culture itself. How have you seen, since you started? I know it's been a small window to get the whole business going, but how have you seen that it starting to really pick up steam? Do you see more things like, hey, when you talk to one person, they're giving you information and resources to another and another and another? Is that how it's progressing?
For sure. Much like many other craft communities, you'd be surprised how many people know each other, right? And I think everyone's mentality is to help each other at this point, because whether, some brands are bigger than others, right? But everyone remembers where they were when they started and how things were. And I think I find myself kind of doing the same thing, where I'm happy to make those connections as well. So I think it's a very community-oriented kind of mentality right now. It's definitely gaining traction. I was fortunate enough to be on the news locally last week during one of the popular morning shows out here. So I had my best week ever, I'll say that, this past week, which was very good, to see. I think, again, I was very confident when I thought of this, that it was something that could progress, but it's just all a matter of awareness, right? So the same issue that the brands are having, I'm going to have, right? So it's just a matter of continuing to push forward and knowing that what I'm doing is kind of it's all encompassing, right? So there's a little more opportunity to gain awareness for more brands, but you're still gonna it's all about awareness. I mean, every day you're marketing and doing things in different ways to gain awareness for the brand. But yeah, I'm definitely happy. I've been fortunate enough to, without real PR yet, have some really great opportunities that I've been able to take advantage of. I mean, even things like this. I think I love doing these interviews because it gives me an opportunity to really continue to have those conversations, right? Because every time you talk to someone about the business, you remember why you did it. You start. It's fun to kind of go back to that mentality and why. Because every day you're like in it and you're like pushing forward and trying to do stuff. So anytime you get to sit back and kind of talk about the inception and why you're doing it, it's always great, and it kind of remotivates you to keep going.
And you hit on something again. It's a great reminder of why we all started in this business,
right?
What we fell in love with. It's like people that you say, like, I say, like, the pros, sometimes they forget, sometimes it's all about the big bucks and they forget about the soul of the sport. Well, sometimes you kind of have to reset and have that communication. And that's the thing that I love learning, and I love just talking. That's my grandfather in me. My grandfather was just a talker. He used to talk to even people he didn't know. They used to say when you went to the Olympics in was it 1932 and out the LA Coliseum, he said the story was that he knew everybody in the Coliseum by the time the day was over,
That's
because he was
amazing.
just a talker. But I think that's the thing that we have to really engage, and I think a lot of us are starting to really utilize that since this whole pandemic thing is really opening the doors of communication and really showing, hey, this is what's out here, man. And I love hearing that. I've always been a West Coast guy, and so when I hear everything coming from the other side of the country, I'm like, this is awesome.
Hmm.
This is awesome. This is it's almost like you said, a whole different world that you're just learning, and you want to continuously learn and dig and embrace and support. And that's the thing that I love what you're focusing on, and the support that you're getting. Like you said, I was on an interview. I'm with a celebrity right now. I'm sharing the screen with a celebrity. That's so cool. But I think that's the thing, is that it's the support and the community. Everybody, it's not the competition, it's the support. It's the community about it. And that's the one thing I dig. Um, so is there any particular areas of the country that you found that these ambassadors that you're pulling, that you're finding, all of a sudden you're going like, man, I didn't know that area had these like producers here. Did you find things like that as you were kind of searching, doing your research?
Yeah. I think that's part of a general kind of shift in wine and spirits making in the whole country. I mean, there's whiskey being made out your way now that's, pretty awesome. And I think those type of things, no matter how you want to start in the business or why, you start to notice things like that. So I've definitely, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area is definitely a hotspot right now for producers of different types of spirits, whether it be vodka or whiskey or things like that. I think that's definitely a big hotspot. Florida is always a popular region, and for many reasons, right? And out your way too. I'm looking forward to getting in touch with. I'm forgetting the name now. I have to. There's a vodka based out in LA that I've been meaning to try out. It's gonna bug me. I'm gonna double check the name, but it's gonna bug me that I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they're based out in LA. Very, very. I've heard nothing but good things about it. But it's just a matter of that's a long distance. We're trying to get on the same page to have the conversation. But I've heard nothing but good things, and they're kind of being embraced as LA's vodka, which I think is kind of cool. Um, so yeah, I think as people are starting to kind of take their guard down in regards to different types of spirits. I mean, even tequila, right now, tequila has to be made in Mexico, but I think even just people's kind of willingness to go ahead and take that leap, like people aren't trying to half-ass it, which I can appreciate, right? Because there's brands out there that I've seen that are making, those mixes of whatever have you. That's not tequila, but they call it that.
Yeah,
But people are going down to Jalisco and actually, making real tequila and building relationships with
right,
distilleries and doing those things, which I think is important.
right.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, for wine, you're gonna California is primarily where that's gonna be. But I mean, people are starting to really branch out and do things. I definitely I have a relationship actually. The wine in my last box, they're based out in Carolina, North Carolina, and they're in the process of in the future sourcing their wine from grapes out there. So I mean, even things like that, like it's just unique and it's great. So I'm looking forward
Right.
to seeing what comes of it.
What are the big wineries that you've seen that are starting to come into your subscription box that you thought, you know, that were just really like a area, again, another unheard of area or a unique area to winemaking? All of a sudden you're like, I have these producers. I have these producers in my box. Is there anybody that you have that you're just like really excited about?
I have something I'm excited about for the future. I've had two wines in the box so far. Both were based out out in Napa. But I'm excited to see what's coming. I'm in talks now with someone who actually I went to college with, and she's based out in New Jersey. So I'm excited to see, what she has to offer, with lovely wines. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard a lot of good things. It's one of those random things that we didn't know each other very well in college, but I didn't realize that we knew each other until we saw each other again. I'm like, oh yeah, like, oh, you're a
Yeah.
winemaker now. Like, and she's like legit, like into it. And so I think that's amazing. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to just keep discovering. I think, again, I created this box for myself in mind. And as crazy as that sounds, I wanted to make something that I would enjoy, right? So the idea is to take people on the journey of discovery. So every month
Right.
it's going to be vastly different. Trying to show people kind of all the corners of what's available, right? So the first month, in December, was a sparkling wine. For New Year's, it kind of made sense. January was LS Cream. February was Blue Royal, which I talked about earlier. In March, I had Ebony Wine, which is the one I talked about that's in Charlotte. And
Right.
then in April, this month, I have Tolero Tequila. So just all very different. May, I'm going to have a cognac. June, I'm going to have a gin. So I'm literally trying to hit, all corners of the industry. And, hopefully kind of some next plans are to add additional subscriptions, right? So I really, whiskey is still kind of, it's not quite as hot as tequila is now, right? Where that's the spirit of the moment, but whiskey has its lovers. And that's something that I'm
Right.
looking to do is add a whiskey only subscription, and let people know there are more than just Uncle Nearest that are black owned whiskeys out there,
Right.
which I love Uncle Nearest, and I hope to include them in the box one day. But ideally, I want to be able to show everybody else what else is out there as well.
No, that's awesome. And so, how many bottles? So, how many bottles come in each subscription? Do you have a variation for, you
So
know?
it's 1,750, which again I thought about myself, and I was like, I did a survey. I mean, I surveyed people when I first had the idea, and I got some feedback from about 200 people. But when I came up with the idea, I was like, if I was to subscribe to something, I want a full bottle, right? And how I kind of made it work is I send you a full 750. I also send you a mixer if I send you a spirit, right? So your mixer will typically be 4 ounces. So that's going to get you a couple cocktails. But you
Right.
should have an opportunity to do other things with the spirit as well, right? So if you have friends come over or you want to try it this way or that way. So the idea is, I don't want to, and I mean, I think there's a place for everything, right? Then there's certain subscriptions
Right.
you get, little samples, and that's great. But I wanted to really provide a full bottle so people can really explore these brands and try them out, because it's all new for the most part, right? So they can try it out in a unique way that they probably didn't know they could.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And and as far as what you're doing, and your I always say, like, our fingerprint, what we're doing to, as far as making things better. Where would you like to see your fingerprint go? Where would you like to see that expand within the industry? Because, like, this subscription is awesome. What you're doing is very
Thank you.
innovative. Even with the mixers, that's something, because you're allowing the consumer to be creative and being versatile with that product, learning how to utilize that product. So where do you want, like, as far as where do you want to continue to have your fingerprint go in the industry?
Good question. And I think what you just said is a part of it, right? So it was important to me to include black-owned mixers because, especially when COVID was really bad, when jobs were lost, a lot of people that make these mixers are mixologists, right? So it's an opportunity to create income streams for them, and that was important to me. Where it's like these are all people that are part of the industry. So if I can create, ideally, what I want to do is I want to Taste of the Culture to be that hub where if people want to find black-owned spirits, black-owned wine, black-owned mixers, even mixologists or bartenders at some point, right? That they could go to a Taste of the Culture website and find that. And that's kind of what I hopefully will get to over time to be that hub, that place where you can find all these things. That's something that's lacking. I mean, it's hard, right? Like it's and there are people that are compiling lists. I have a list, other people have lists. Some of us work together with lists, and I think that's great. But I think overall, you know, I would love to see like a central place where you can find all those things, and that's kind of the goal, is to be that central hub to host everything, and it can be that resource.
No, that's great. That's great. Even on my end, if you have anything that you could offer, so I could pass it along. That's
Sure.
the thing. It's like it's this continuous. Like I said, it's always about research, joining together as a community and really kind of shooting the voices out there. And what you're doing, again, I tell this to every ambassador that I sit with, is you're doing something that is creating a voice. You're creating an impact. You're creating positivity within the industry. And you said it somewhat as you're doing this because it hasn't had the amplification of it, much amplification, and now you're getting all these all these voices coming in and going, hey, I got this and I can do this and I can give you this and this is great. This is great. And yeah, the more that I learn about what you're doing, it's just, again, it's something that we all need to do as the ambassadors, really support and really have a voice for these producers out there that are just really unheard, and this is a great thing that you're doing. I know, like, I hate watching the clock because I always say Instagram cuts our time off so short. But what would you want to see as far as the industry? Where would you want to see the industry go so we wouldn't have to do so much digging? Where would you like to see the industry? You know what I mean?
Well, that's a good question. I think distribution is probably distribution and the retail structure overall is probably the main thing, right? Now, obviously, the three-tier system is what it is. I mean, that's not as much of an issue as some of the how dated some of the laws are, right? Where,
Right.
again, I'm not a politician, right? So I'll never get into why certain states have their, have control. If I was a state, if I was a government and I controlled, alcohol sales, you know how much money that brings in? So, I mean, I get it. But I
Right.
think that's, we have to take into consideration what time we're in, right? It's 2021, technology, rules everything, right? And some of these states are doing a certain good job, or somewhat of a good job now, right? Where they're trying to find a way to get into the 21st century and embrace some of these things. But again, it's so much red tape. It's so many things you have to do where I think overall we just need to give people more of a choice, right? That, when you're online, everything's available to you. It should be that way when it comes to wine and spirits. I mean,
Mm.
every year, there's new records being broken as far as, how much wine and spirits people are drinking.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm a millennial, right? And which a term that I'm not the biggest fan of, but yeah, I'm that, and that's what we do. We explore. I mean, even non-alcoholic spirits are something that's growing, right? Ready to drink cocktails, all these things.
Mm.
It's innovation is happening so much faster than anybody was prepared for, right? And if
Right.
all the channels of sales don't adapt to that, then you're going to lose out. And I think that's the thing that I would just love to see, the retail space be different. Distributors, I think there's too much consolidation there. I won't get into who's what and, and all that. I mean, I used to work for one, I'll say that. So I would love to see some change there. I think there's advantages, right? Like when you're a brand and you go to a distributor and they're available in like 40 states, that's amazing, right? But the
Right.
thing people don't think about is how many other brands are part of that distributor, right? And as a
Right.
salesperson, I'll tell you, you can only focus on so much. And I think that's the thing is, as much as, even some of these brands I've worked with, like, I'm sure all of them would be happy to get a phone call and they could be with a distributor that's in 40 states. But, are you really going to be the focus of that distributor? Is it really going to
Right.
benefit you or is it going to hurt you? So I think that's the thing that I want to see is definitely some changes in the distributors where, maybe, there are distributors out there that's only for craft brands or whatever have you. It's that's something that I would love to see change because what's happening now is, every, 6 months you hear about somebody else getting bought and it's like, what other options do you have? So I don't know.
Yeah. No, you hit it. You hit it right on the head. I totally believe that. That's and like I said, I've been at the retail end of things, and just books that I've opened up to orders from different merchants that I've worked for, and to go, why why aren't we ordering this? Why
Hmm.
are we isolated to just order these things? And like you said, if the distributors or if more retailers opened up opportunity instead of going, okay, well, we have to have this. Well, yeah, we have to have that, but we also should say we have to have this too. This is a must. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Because if you're saying that this one is a must, then all of it should be a must, because you're going to see, I think you're going to see more sales, you're going to see more flux, you're going to see more people experimenting. And I think that's why like you said, the negativity of COVID turned positive, because people were at home and they started to go, okay, they started coming out of their comfort zones and started saying, I'm going to order this. I'm just going to try it out. I'm going to go for it.
yeah.
And now things are happening. You have wines in a can that people used to be afraid of. Now people are buying wines in a can because they're like, it's convenient. It's this. It tastes good. It's really good wine. And so, that gives a lot more opportunity. And I think if we keep on as the consumer itself, I always say, and I believe this, if we have the power as consumers, if we said we won't buy gas one day, all of us, because the gas prices are too high, the gas companies, the oil companies will go crazy.
Right.
And that's the same thing. If we demand, hey, as a consumer, we need to have these bottles. Why can't we have these bottles on the shelf? There should be more of these bottles on the shelf. But what you're doing is you're creating that opportunity. You yourself is creating that opportunity, and that is awesome, and that is important.
Thank you.
And so I know we're ending our show. It's that time, and I hate it, but
It's all good.
and I like I said, I think all the ambassadors on here are doing an amazing job. You're doing an amazing job. What would you like to say to those people that are just getting into the business, that are beginning their journey or in the middle of their journey or in the crossroads, that are trying to make their fingerprint into the industry? What advice could you give them?
The biggest piece of advice I would give is be authentic. Tell your story. I think that's something that even as I created this, a taste of the culture, this business is something that there's something I did, as a marketer, you do that for other brands, but realizing that if you have a brand, if you're looking to get in the business, that's what you have to do. I mean, that's what people are attached to. Now, every spirit and wine tastes different, but they all taste the same, right? At the end of the day,
Right.
how different are whiskeys? How different are tequilas? There's a general sense of them being similar, right? So the stories and what the emotional attachment people have to the brands is what's different, right? So the more you do that, the better you'll be, and the more people that you'll have that are fans of your brand. That's something that you can't, that's why the big brands are what they are, because they have the resources to continue to innovate those stories, to change those stories. You know, it's I mean, to name a brand, I mean, remember when vodka was the thing, flavored vodka, and there used to be 40 flavored vodkas out there, and they were trying to find a way to be the next Sex in the City Cosmo, featured vodka or
Right.
whatever. Now, tequila's going through that. So just to kind of just think about, to be authentic, tell that story. That's all the brands that are getting big now are doing that in some type of way. If you're not a celebrity brand, right? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Which, they have their place. I don't, I have a love-hate relationship with some of those, but if you're really just, out there trying to create something cool, just tell a story, and once people hear that and they try it out, and more often than not, it'll speak for itself.
Awesome. Awesome. And where can we find Sean and his awesome subscription?
So you can visit a tasteoftheculture.com, or you can visit us on social media. On Instagram and Facebook, we're at A Taste of the Culture. On Twitter, we're A Taste of the Cull, number one. Twitter has a character limit, so we weren't able to do that. But on my website, you'll be able to find all the information about subscriptions, as well as our new cocktail boxes, which I have a standalone cocktail box that features Black Leaf Vodka right here. And I'll be releasing more in the future where if you don't want to subscribe, you can still buy a cocktail box and enjoy a Black-owned spirit and mixer.
Awesome. Well, and don't forget, if you are on this right now and you don't follow Sean, go ahead and follow Sean right now. You can click on that little arrow up on top where it says Breaking Bread with Corey. You can click on his little profile and start following him, start supporting. yeah. Start supporting his business. Join his subscription. This is the time where we got to do it. We got to support each other in this community. And thank you so much again for your time, sharing your story. I know we only touched the tip of the iceberg of what you're doing. I'd love to have you back sometime in the future. I love to hear everybody's journey, where they're going, because it's all about the journey, what we're doing, and I love to keep in touch. We got to stay in touch, and like I said, I'd love to bring you back on and share more of what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate an opportunity to talk about the business and what we're trying to do. And, kudos to you and the audience you've been able to build up with this series and everything that you do. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And like I said, this is the time to support it. So go ahead and follow Sean if you can. Follow me. And we appreciate all the support. I appreciate your support. And until next time, Sean, we'll definitely do this again. Cheers, man.
For sure.
All right, here we go. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me for part one of a two-part show today. Sean McClain from A Taste of the Culture subscription box. You've got to follow him. Check out his website. Some amazing things that he's doing. He is another ambassador, breaking down barriers, creating opportunity for the consumer. That's what we all want to do. We want the consumer to explore and have that opportunity. So what he's doing is very good. And just stay tuned. In just a little under 10 minutes, we're going to bring on our next guest, Gloria Paisan of Mario Paisan Cellars. We're going to be drinking their wine and talking love and wine with her and her husband, Mario, and their family story. It's going to be an amazing show, so stay tuned. And we'll see you in a few minutes. Cheers.